When Mother's Day means celebrating your mom, your wife, maybe even your daughter as a new mom, trust 1-800-Flowers to help you celebrate every important woman in your life. With double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a simple way to give beautifully, with colorful blooms that make Mother's Day feel meaningful. For every mom you're celebrating, order with confidence and get double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
It never happens at a good time. The pipe bursts at midnight. The heater quits on the coldest night. Suddenly, you're overwhelmed. That's when HomeServe is here. For $4.99 a month, you're never alone. Just call their 24/7 hotline and a local pro is on the way. Trusted by millions, HomeServe delivers peace of mind when you need it most. For plans starting at just $4.99 a month, go to HomeServe.com. That's HomeServe.com. Not available everywhere. Most plans range between $4.99 to $11.99 a month your first year. Terms apply on covered repairs.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. I'll be rushing to the airport. So I think my flight's at like 5:45 tonight to Springfield, Missouri. Never been to Springfield, Missouri. Speaking of flights, just as a side note, so my father is 86 and his brother is 84. Neither of them are in fantastic health. I think they wouldn't mind me saying. I got to figure out how to get my father from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Orlando or Winter Park, Florida to see my Uncle Leaf. And I need to win the lottery so I can do like a private flight. Getting my dad through the Atlanta airport and he wants to go see his brother and road trip. Getting old sucks, doesn't it? And the logistics of travel, I gotta figure that one out. Need to get one of those microlight, with the parachutes where you strap on the lawnmower fan and just sail him over to Orlando or something. I got to figure that out. All right. So I want to spend a little more time on this story. And again, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, and you get the show notes, it's in the show notes because I put it in the show notes. So the show notes, by the way, are not behind the paywall today. Every single one of you can get them. Fisher's upset with me for not making it subscribers only today. I want everybody to see my genius. Philip is on vacation. I did it all myself. Fisher volunteered to help, and I was like, you know what, I can do it. And he's like, you're not gonna charge people for it. No, I'm not. I'm a generous, gracious host. So text Eric to 33777. You'll find the Axios link. I mentioned it in the last segment before we went to break. Democrats are starting to realize that younger non-white Democrats are less loyal to the Democratic Party. And I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about it in terms of the SAVE Act. Many of you want the SAVE Act passed. And many of you are convinced that if we don't pass the SAVE Act, the Republicans are going to lose. They're going to lose the House even with the SAVE Act. Now, I was on with Mark Halper this morning. He thinks the Democrats could gain up to 45 seats. I say 15. He was blown out of the water that I was so low. And my thinking is that the Democrats are still far more unpopular than the GOP, and the Democrats are continuing to nominate a bunch of radicals to seats around the country. So the Democrats will win, but it's going to be far closer than people think. But between redistricting efforts, swing seats, Democrats picking bad candidates, I don't think it's going to be the massive blowout Mark thinks. Now, things change, events change. I could have to revise and extend my remarks later, but it's possible. However, there are Republicans now who think that if the SAVE Act doesn't pass, that's why they're going to lose. It's always excuse making. Have you noticed how it's excuse making for both parties now? If you lose, it was stolen. If you win, it was legitimate. That's always the case. It is now. It's always we're the victims if we lose. It wasn't our fault. Now, problems here for the Democrats. There is a growing set of data that shows the United States is far less racist than it has ever been in the past. And in fact, it's true. We are however many 100 plus years removed from the Civil War. We are a nation now where we have far more integration. We have far more people who know each other beyond the color of their skin. We have far more interracial marriage. We have far more integrated communities. We have far more integrated office spaces. People know each other. People have friends who are not of the same race these days. So it's obvious that we are a far less racist nation. Now, we're always going to have sin. Racism is a sin, so we're always going to have racism, but it doesn't mean we're a racist nation. We're not systemically racist. There is this movement on the left to continue to redefine the United States as some sort of very racist nation, that we were founded in racism. That's not true, but the left believes it so, and they amplify it. There actually, we talk a lot about white privilege. There actually is a black privilege as well. And the black privilege in the United States is to be convinced that every slight you have suffered is racism, as opposed to, well, you did something wrong. Now, you got to be careful when you say that, because, again, this is the black privilege we have in the United States, to presume racism when there is no racism, to interpret things as racism. And that is starting to fade in this country with younger black voters who no longer presume that they were slighted because of racism. Older black voters, indoctrinated by the Democratic Party, are convinced that any bad thing that happened must be racist. Younger black voters think, well, you know what? Maybe it was me. Sometimes it's racism, though not often anymore. Sometimes it's the person's just an idiot. Sometimes it's you. The idea that everything I don't like or every slight is racist is something that younger black voters, thankfully, are putting behind themselves. And younger white voters, in response as well, are more willing to engage in behaviors and statements that people will accommodate these days that in the past might be presumed as racist. Now, the problem is that real racists feed on this stuff and engage in racism. Look at the Nick Fuenteses of the world. People like that, real racists out there, benefit from this. But, you know, more and more these days, young white people listen to rap music that has the N-word, and they quote the N-word from the rap music, and I don't think that's a good thing, but it's more and more common. Younger black people listen to the same music with them, and they're more likely to recognize that, you know what, we're just complicated people. And the Democrats want to break everything down into real simple terms, that we're just racists, as opposed to people are complicated. Culture is complicated. Culture is blended. So my wife, as an aside, has started playing Mahjong. A friend of hers convinced her she should get into Mahjong. So she's been driving to, there's a town called Griffin, Georgia, and she drives up there and she takes Mahjong lessons. And she's been doing more and more Mahjong, and she saw, because she's into it now, her Instagram reels, she's been finding more and stuff on there, and saw some white woman the other day declare that playing Mahjong is cultural appropriation. And my wife just rolled her eyes at it, and she said, can you believe this person? I'm playing this game that is a Chinese-oriented game, and this person is calling it cultural appropriation. And if you're buying a Mahjong set from someone who's not Chinese, you're culturally appropriated. My wife's like, I'm just playing Mahjong. I'm not culturally appropriating anything. I'm just playing a game. Are we not allowed to play the game? It's like, exactly. It's progressive white people who do this stuff, cultural appropriation. Today, as I mentioned, is Cinco de Mayo. It's when white people get drunk on a holiday that no one in Mexico actually celebrates. We have culturally appropriated Cinco de Mayo so white people can eat tacos and drink Mexican beer all day, and I got nothing wrong with it. It's the 5th of May, and it's falling this year on Taco Tuesday, and only white progressives are upset by it. Nobody else cares. Everybody else is eating their tacos, drinking their Coronas, except me. I'm not a big Corona fan. They're celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Nobody in Mexico does. It's a meaningless day in Mexico. It's some third-rate little skirmish somewhere that the beer industry invented to be able to sell Coronas. younger black Americans are in on the shtick, and they don't like it either. You know what young black Americans like? Now, listen, I recognize as a super white guy, so white I don't wear white socks because they would disappear on me and I'd never find them again. But I can tell you, young black voters, they want good jobs. They want families. They want safe neighborhoods. They want good schools for their children. They want a lot of what you and I want. And in so doing, they're realizing that the Democratic Party is stuck and broken on the idea of racial politics. They are wedded to the idea that this country is systemically racist, that anything they don't like is racism, and that black people somehow need the leg up from the government. Just look at affirmative action. A majority of Americans, black and white, reject affirmative action. Did you know that? Did you know that a majority of black voters in this country actually opposed affirmative action? It was white progressives who think that black people need affirmative action. Think about the pilot of the Artemis II who circled the moon and came home. And the left insisted that but for DEI, this guy would not have been there. And when he was asked about that, he said, hey, he's a very nice guy. Man, that guy could probably run for president. Everybody would vote for him until he took a stand on an issue controversial. He's a Christian pro-lifer. But he said, I like to think that I'm where I am because of my training. He didn't get into the military because he was black, and he didn't get admitted to the astronaut program because he was black. He got admitted because of his training. Same with the woman. And yet the left was saying, well, it was DEI. Is that not racial stigma? That you only got where you were because of affirmative action. That casts doubt on your actual competence, and black people know this. And young black Americans don't want to be stigmatized by the things that progressive white Americans think they need. The idea that a young black mother does not want police in her neighborhood to keep her safe at night because the police are somehow racist is bizarre, but that's what white progressives do. And as the Democratic Party becomes more fueled by white progressives, particularly white neurotic women and gay men, younger black voters and Hispanic voters from the Democratic Party are moving to the GOP. And that's opening doors for the GOP to be able to advance in ways they previously have not been able to advance. That's opening doors for the GOP to succeed in ways they haven't been able to succeed in the past. And that's a good thing. The Republican Party in the United States of America is actually doing a very good job advancing itself into these communities. And you can say, but Erickson, it's only a 10-15% shift. That's not a lot. But in close races, it matters. In close races, and there are going to be a lot of close races this year, that matters. And the Democratic response is just to scream more loudly that we're a racist nation. The Democratic Party is to scream more loudly that we are systemically, inherently, as a nation, flawed. In the show notes today, I put in this polling from RMG. Is the United States a force for good or evil in the world? 51% of Americans say good, 24% say evil. It's kind of alarming that only 51% say good. Most don't want to stake out a position. But among Republicans, it's 62% force for good. Among Democrats, a force for evil is, for Republicans, it's plus 62. For Democrats, it's plus 2 evil. Democrats are more likely to see the United Nations as a force for good than the United States, and Republicans say the opposite. It's staggering polling. And Republicans, because they love this country, even when they're not in charge of it, are increasingly persuasive to non-white voters that maybe they should give the GOP a chance. It turns out when you love your country and you love your neighbor, people might be open to you. And the Democrats, all they want to do is scold and yell at you for not using Newspeak. So did you guys notice that the U.S. Supreme Court allowed the abortion pill to continue to be distributed via telemedicine, doctor's offices, and the likes? They had the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals had paused it. And by the way, they're actually, despite what Democrats say, there are a lot of health concerns about this pill. People have died from this pill, and yet they insist that it's as safe as Tylenol when that's not actually the case. The left does. They're just being dishonest about it. If you die, well, I mean, it's all about population control anyway. So it's a concern, but the Supreme Court, the racist Roberts Court, as the Democrats now call it, allowed the abortion pill to continue to be sold. They stopped the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And I just find it so interesting how there's no principled consistency from the left. Not that I'm surprised by it. None of us are surprised by it, but it's worth noting that just a few days ago, they were enraged by the United States Supreme Court suddenly praising the United States Supreme Court, all because of abortion. It is always with the Democrats, heads they win, tails you lose. They never want to credit anybody on the other side for anything worthwhile. And they are willing to undermine the Supreme Court. By the way, Neil Gorsuch was asked by my buddy Dan McLaughlin in a National Review interview about his new book. Dan McLaughlin, Baseball Crank, asked Neil Gorsuch about the partisanship and the perception of the Supreme Court. And he points out that the United States Supreme Court now has far more unanimous decisions than they did 50 years ago. And not only that, the United States Supreme Court has more decisions decided on a basis that defies the usual left-right split today than they did 50 and 60 years ago. So in other words, the court is actually far less partisan than it used to be. Democrats' new talking point is that we've had a Republican court since the 1960s. Such a big Republican court. It was a liberal court, not a conservative court. It is very much a conservative court now. And that, thankfully, is a good thing. But they've shifted now from we've had a conservative court to, well, it's been the Republicans have controlled it since the 1960s. Why? Because Republicans have done a very good job of getting elected to the presidency. And up until the late 1990s, when it became a big abortion rally for the Democrats, they were able to get conservative justices confirmed by the United States Senate. And then they started winning Senate races. And by the way, I do kind of think if the Republicans can reject Ken Paxton in Texas, they'll have enough money to probably pick up Michigan if Michigan goes wackadoo, hold Maine with Susan Collins, and save Ohio, and maybe North Carolina. I'm concerned about North Carolina and Georgia. I think if the GOP in Georgia goes with Mike Collins, John Ossoff is a shoo-in just on the ethics issue. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm before I get out of here. You can get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms by going to EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code is Eric3. They have a money-back guarantee. If they don't wipe out your odors, that's how I use them, odor elimination. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Eric3. You can see the site for details on the money-back guarantee. It's like a 30-day money-back guarantee. The site's got the details. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm generates ozone, which operates as odor bleach, and it just wipes out every odor. No odor can stand up to it, and I've used it in hotel rooms. In fact, going to Missouri, have one in my travel bag, and it will wipe out odors. If someone smoked in my hotel room, I don't have to worry about it, or a rental car. I don't have to worry about it. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. Eden like the Garden of Eden. Pure is the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. You put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK, the number 3, no space. You'll get 3 of them, upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV, wherever you need them. They'll wipe out odors. You get a money-back guarantee. The site's got the details, and you're going to save $200. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code ERIC3.
When Mother's Day means celebrating your mom, your wife, maybe even your daughter as a new mom, trust 1-800-Flowers to help you celebrate every important woman in your life. With double blooms from 1-800-Flowers, order 1 dozen roses and get another dozen for free. It's a simple way to give beautifully, with colorful blooms that make Mother's Day feel meaningful. For every mom you're celebrating, order with confidence and get double blooms at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to spend some time with a competitor. His show's on at the same time as mine in parts of the country, And I know there would be some radio stations. Why would you put this guy on? He's on a competing radio station. Because this is why. My friend Buck Sexton has written a book, Manufacturing Delusion, and it is the authoritative book on how it is that the left these days is suddenly gone into this wild herd mentality where the word games and everybody suddenly within days went from pregnant woman to pregnant person and things like that. He's got a background. He was in the CIA. He's great. Books. I think I'm the better radio show host, but he's a great author and well-researched. He's also a friend. We had to pre-record the interview because obviously our shows are at the same time, but his new book is phenomenal, and I really did want you to consider buying it. If you text ENGAGE to 33777, I'll send you a link. We pre-recorded this conversation yesterday. It's Eric Erickson here nationwide, and I've got a special guest here with me. It is Buck Sexton from Clay and Buck, and you've got a new book out, Manufacturing Delusion, which is timely because I've been talking about this subject a lot. My friend Tim Keller, the theologian who died a couple years ago, had a great piece on postmodern theory and critical theory and how so much of it's derived from Marxism and how the Marxists believe that if you change words, you change definitions, and power comes from changing the definitions. And it's kind of, I gather what the book is about on manufacturing delusion from how the communists essentially are inculcating what the left is doing right now.
Eric, great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me on. And yes, the great thing about the book is it is so timely. The bad thing is that it's timely because crazy people keep doing crazy things, leftists in particular. And that's really what we see happening again and again. You know, we just recently had, and this is a perfect example, by the way, this is the book, Manufacturing Delusion. And I'm very gratified. I mean, it's not overly academic, but it really does go into a lot of history and a lot of research that I've done on brainwashing. Basically, how do you make people crazy? And I'm gratified that it became a New York Times bestseller and that people have gone out and bought Manufacturing Delusion. I have no cable news network pushing this. This is just a book that I wrote over the course of 18 months that has really resonated with people because of what they're learning, but also what they're seeing. We just had some lunatic try to run through Secret Service in a assassination attempt of the president of the United States. We've had numerous assassination attempts, as we know. But I really want to understand, Eric, how do you get somebody who seemingly high IQ, grew up in this country, to think that it's a good idea, in fact, even a moral idea, to load up with a shotgun, a pistol, a knife, and try to make a crazy dash through Secret Service to kill the president of the United States? We are not actually in something new right now. This kind of delusional action has been around for a very long time, and there are tactics, there are steps, there are things that are done. And in the book, in Manufacturing Delusion, I go through conditioning, menticide, brainwashing, thought reform, forced phobia, isolation, all these different concepts that can be used to manipulate people to the point where they no longer know not only right from wrong, but reality from unreality or falsehood. And that is the basis, by the way, of totalitarian regimes. It's the basis of cults and a manufacturing delusion. I make the case it's the ideological basis of the Democrat Party right now.
Yeah. Okay. So some great examples of this that, I mean, you and I could do these off the top of my head. I mean, 10 years ago, no one cared about pronouns. Now they're in everybody's bios, and suddenly this embrace of the he, him, and the she, her, and the they, them is regular on the left. Or take Graham Plattner in Maine. We went from anybody who supports Donald Trump as a Nazi to, hey, this guy with a Nazi tattoo can stop the Nazis. It's just they play these word games over and over, and the embrace of it from pregnant person. Even you've got members of Congress now who no longer say pregnant women, it's pregnant person, the unhoused instead of the homeless, changing words constantly, and then having the elites parrot those word changes, having the AP put them into their style guide, so everybody else in the media has to do them. It does seem like you have this higher order rethink that then pushes its way down to the grassroots as opposed to the grassroots on the way up.
Oh, no, this is absolutely coming from systematic political forces that are trying to change not just the dialogue or the discourse that we have, but the way that people think. If you change the way people speak about something, and Orwell certainly understood this. I might add, you know that Animal Farm was just released on May Day, basically Communist International Workers' Day,
with a revised ending,
and they replaced the evil of communism with the evil of capitalism. They are Orwelling Orwell. That just happened, everybody. That happened, a few days ago. This is the society that we live in now. But I want to make sure everyone understands. None of this is by accident. In fact, all of this comes from tactics of psychological manipulation that have really come up in about the last 100 years. Because here's what's different. Yes, of course, manipulation and cults and false religions, all these things have existed for all of human history. What's different, starting about 100 years ago, and also with the rise of truly totalitarian regimes, is you have mass media and mass delusion coupled together. So now you can reach everyone everywhere with your messaging, and you also have state propaganda alongside the machinery of a state that can enforce it against people with violence, right? This is what we saw in the Soviet Union and Communist China and North Korea and other places all over the world. So in the last 100 years, we've seen this experiment happening where they try to make people, or rather they do make people, embrace the most obvious lies. And that, Eric, is what's so important here. You talked about the pronoun thing, right? The pronoun thing I talk about in chapter 2 of Manufacturing Delusion. I talk about menticide. Menticide is a concept, obviously killing of the mind, right? Like homicide is killing of a human being. Menticide is mind killing. And menticide was the theorem of a guy named Joost Meerloo, who in the Second World War fled the Nazis. He actually changed his name. He was Jewish. He fled the Nazis in the Netherlands and joined the Dutch army in exile in the UK, but he was a trained psychiatrist. So how was he most useful against the Nazis? Doing, of course, counterinformation operations, psychological warfare. And part of that was interviewing captured Nazis, captured SS members specifically. And what he found was there's a lot of, and I get into the book to sort of some of the more details of the process. There's a process of how you want to break down someone's mind, but two things that absolutely apply, not just to a Nazi regime, but actually apply here in America today. Two concepts, degradation and confusion. Now, the degradation component is say things that you know are untrue. Say things that you know have to be false and just be made to keep saying them. You're degrading your own sense of reason. And confusion, of course, change what you have to say, change what the required slogans are, keep people in a constant sort of dizzied psychological state. So you're degrading them and confusing them at the same time. Saying that a woman can have a penis in modern America is a fantastic example of menticide. And that's just one of many that I get into in the book. And we talk about people that don't want to have babies because of climate change. I mean, all kinds of things. But these processes are playing out in a very similar way to a totalitarian regime. And this is, I really, the idea for the book, Eric, came from my experience with COVID, where people were just acting like maniacs. People were believing the most obvious lies. Mask up in between bites on an airplane. Sit in this circle in a park because that will keep you safe. Double mask, that will make you safe. Maybe wear goggles. This was clear mass delusion, clear insanity, mass hysteria. And yet it was pushed from the very top by the elites in a systematic way, just like you would see in a totalitarian society. So we got a little trial run, a little taste of it through COVID. The book is not a COVID book, by the way, but that's really where these ideas all come together. And that's where my exploration started for how do you make people so crazy? How do you get middle-aged, women in the Midwest, Eric, to go spit in the faces of ICE officers because they think we shouldn't have anyone enforcing our borders? I mean, these are insane beliefs, right? This is not that uncommon if you saw what happened in Minneapolis. This is menticide. This is mass delusion. This is a manufactured delusion.
It is kind of wild to me. I mean, you can hear it in voices, and I have to catch myself now in postmodern times from I think to I feel, and people who say my truth as opposed to the truth. And we really are in this wild time, but it feels like it's escalating too. Like every week now, there is more and more of this revision of truth. Just take the Spirit Airlines news of what 2-3 years ago was the Biden administration who blocked it, and today suddenly you've got every Democrat rapidly parroting, well, they went out of business because of high gas prices because of Iran, which it's simply not true, but they just repeat it over and over and over, hoping that the vulnerable will embrace the lie.
Well, as you know, I start with the most aggressive forms of breaking down and rewiring or reprogramming menticide thought reform, which is actually the Chinese word for or phrase for brainwashing. Brainwashing is an Americanized or an American neologism that comes out of the 1950s. Based on Chinese communist thought reform. Thought reform, which I think is in some ways, brainwashing is kind of more visceral, but thought reform really does tell you about another part of the process. It's not just to wipe what's there, which is the brainwashing. It's also to put new programming, new thoughts, new ideas in its place, which the Chinese did very, very systematically. And now you're talking, for example, about what happens today here and the repetition of lies. That's more the propaganda piece of this. And I kind of break the book up into the most sort of extreme versions of this, meaning the menticide, the brainwashing. And then I get into more of what you would see in cults, which is isolation, forced phobia. So they can't like call the secret police on you, but they can influence you and do these things. And then there's the little things, the little almost like information operation snowflakes, just all over the sky all the time, which is the constant fire hose of falsehood, which is in manufacturing delusion. I get into the specifics of what that is, but I think it's pretty clear from the phrase. It's just constant drumbeat of lies and of misdirection everywhere you go. I mean, I even point out something as straightforward, Eric, as gender assigned at birth. This is a phrase that is now used by people. Now, I want everyone to think about this for a second, because it's not even, it's in no way true. Even if you were to sort of believe at some level that the doctor is making some decision at birth, of course, the decision was made by God, not a doctor. We know what the gender is long before the baby is born. So how is gender, right? I mean, you can look in the womb, you can tell. People find out months before a baby comes, boy or girl. The notion that the doctor comes up with some on the spur of the moment gender reveal and that we didn't know gender before then is just flatly false. And yet the phrase is, I even point this out with undocumented immigrants. Oh, they have documents. They probably just have a nationality card that says not American. I mean, it's, they're from Guatemala or they're from Laos or they're from, wherever. So these are lies that we are to repeat in our daily discourse. And it's not a minor thing because, yeah, it affects people's perception politically, but also when you can break someone from their most fundamental understanding of reality, when you can manufacture the delusion all the way through, you have people who will act on it. You have the violence that we see, whether it's against ICE officers, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the attempted assassinations of Donald Trump. These things are all around us now because people have become unmoored from fundamental truths and they are forgetting Solzhenitsyn's admonition to live not by lies.
So real quick, before we wrap this up, what's the solution? How do you push back on this?
So the real solution is Manufacturing Delusion Book 2, because everyone wants me to come up with the sort of counter argument or the counterplay to this. And I'm going to do that. But I want people to obviously get the first book. I really do think they'll enjoy it. There's a lot of history. I didn't even get into this. I write about my time in the CIA and some of the missions I went on and some of the craziness I saw with jihadists. CIA obviously had to clear the book. They did. So I was able to speak about it in some detail. Nigeria, Iraq, Afghanistan. These are places where I was sent during my time in the agency that were formative in my understanding of people going crazy because of the suicide bombers and all the things that we were dealing with over there. But so I just, as a little pitch, I think people will really find that part of the book interesting. And you have a very high wattage audience, Mr. Erickson. And so I certainly hope they will go get a copy of Manufacturing Delusion. Now, the way to counter this, I said, live not by lies, which is the famous Solzhenitsyn line. That's quite true. And I think the first thing to always remember is that there's always a reason someone wants you to lie. And so really what you have to do is constantly make note of, and in whatever way, push back on and reject even the smallest of lies throughout your day. Don't use the preferred pronoun because someone tells you it's nice. Be kind to somebody, but refer to them as they are. Don't say that somebody is just as American as anybody who's been here their whole life because they came across the border 5 minutes ago. That's a lie. They're here illegally. They're not American. Don't allow people to bully you into professing falsehoods under any circumstance, and you'll find that you are free. But this is an individual decision. It's up to every person on how they push back against this. And I just think we have seen that whenever the collective is telling you, just lie this one time, just go along with this little thing, it's never one thing, and it always gets worse. So you have to be on constant. It is a game of constant defense in many ways because you're defending against these lies while also trying to spread the truth.
You can text ENGAGE to 33777 to order Buck's book. Now, my commitment with Buck, and thanks to him for spending time with me, y'all, it really is a good book. I hadn't actually read it. And then I knew what the book was about. I hadn't actually read it. And then I got it for Kindle and barnstormed through it. And it's a really good book and is very well researched. So text ENGAGE to 33777. You will not regret it. And when somebody goes, why he's a competitor? Well, I mean, is he? We're not all on at the same times, and we're on a lot of similar stations. But when my cookbook comes out, he's going to have me on to talk about food. That's the commitment here. So, look, I've got a lot of friends in radio, and it is a good book. So if you text ENGAGE to 33777, you can get it and check it out. And thanks to him for making time and for doing the research. No ghostwriter on this book, as he said. We had a long talk about that off air too, about the. I don't like it. He doesn't like it, and that's why he doesn't do a lot, and I don't do a lot because I'd rather do it myself. I've done ghostwriters in the past, and I've got a good friend who's helped me with the book. But the best ones are always the ones you do yourself, and his is a very good book. It really is worth engaging with. So now I am off to Missouri. Those of you in Springfield, go to 933kwto.com. Reserve for tomorrow. There's no charge. They just want to know you're coming. And I will see you guys. I'll be broadcasting from Springfield tomorrow and then back here in my chair on Thursday. Now, I got to tell you about Swiss America, because if you are interested in where the markets are headed with all the turmoil between the gold prices going up and oil prices up and down and the Dow up today and all that, well, you can go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. And you can click on the news and views tabs from Swiss America. You can get their podcast. You can stay informed. If you're interested in buying gold, they're a great place to buy gold from. I have bought gold coins from them. But also get their Secret War on Cash report. It is completely free. How the government is trying to steer you into using credit and debit and not cash, because they want to be able to monitor you. And Swiss America can help you with your retirement and finances. They've been trusted for 40 years with precious metals. They got great ratings by the Better Business Bureau. Go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric today. SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Just start a relationship with them. Get to know them. If you're ever interested in self-investing in precious metals, they're a great company to talk to. SwissAmerica.com/Eric.